Good day and welcome. I am SoloViator, and on this platform I'll be covering the transition of the Mercedes-Benz 144 Sprinter. The focus is going to be converting this 4x4 diesel from a cargo van into an RV. But first, I would like to go back to the genesis of Mercedes-Benz and focus on who they were and who they are today. Please join me. Carl Benz, the founder of Mercedes-Benz, was born on November 25, 1844, in a small town in Karlsruhe, Germany. His parents, Josephine and Johann Benz, worked sedulously to support Carl. Although Carl grew up in poverty, his parents truly understood the severity of education. It wasn't long until they discovered just how intelligent their son was. At the ripe age of 15, Carl passed the entrance exam for mechanical engineering at the University of Karlsruhe. In July of 1864, Carl graduated from the university. He was just over 19 years old. While attending college, Carl began to evince ideas of creating the world's first horseless carriage. As the inner gears of the internal combustion engine flooded his brain, Carl began to make pace on what would be known as the automobile. In 1869, Carl met Bertha Ringer. This is one of the many great successes in Carl's life. Shortly after Carl and Bertha married, they had several children, 5 to be exact. Bertha was a smart and charming woman who was also interested in engineering. Her and her husband worked together on the creation of a self-powered carriage. This 3-wheeled mobile would be powered by an internal combustion engine that had 2 gears at the time of its inception. In 1886, Carl and Bertha were able to get a patent for the German-made motor wagon. The road to success was definitely not one without failure. Carl and Bertha worked tirelessly in order to make their invention sustain. After a handful of failed attempts, Carl was a little bit discouraged, and he focused his efforts elsewhere. Not only did Bertha support Carl emotionally, but she truly believed in him so much that she used a share of her dowry in order to fund the motor wagon project. A dowry is a payment from the bride's family during the time of marriage. This can be in the form of money, land, or any sort of familiar inheritance. Not only did Bertha Benz aid in the funding of the project, but she would also change history forever. On the morning of August 8, 1888, Bertha conducted the first long-distance trip in an automobile, in a Model 3 to be exact. She was accompanied by her 2 sons, Richard and Eugene. Both boys were 13 and 15 years old. The route was roughly 106 kilometers, or 66 miles. Today, this trip is known as the Bertha Benz Memorial Route. It goes from Mannheim to Pforzheim. In America, nearly a decade after Bertha's famous ride, Henry Ford would show the world his invention of the quadricycle. This would take place in October of 1896. There is no doubt that Carl and Bertha were pioneers for the automobile industry. Their love for family, adventure, and creativity paved the road for so many others to follow. In 1896 came the creation of the combination delivery vehicle. This was the first van produced by Mercedes and was described as having a detachable box body. This classy beast was chain-driven and could carry up to 300 kilograms, which is roughly 660 pounds. This too had an internal combustion engine that was 5 horsepower. Could you imagine hitting the trails with those wooden spoke wheels and the solid rubber tires? I'm trying to imagine what the spinal cord would have felt at the time. Oof. I'll tell you one thing, the old chap driving looks pretty happy. It sure beats walking or the good old horse and buggy. In 1929, Mercedes-Benz introduced the L1000 Express van. It was in production from 1929 to 1936. This beast could carry 1,000 kilos, or roughly 1.1 tons. Its design name was also known as the W37. This mean-looking van was very unique for its time and set the standard for versatility. The L319 was introduced in 1956. This van differed from others due to the engine being moved from the rear to the front of the vehicle. This van was a forerunner for what the Sprinter is today. It had a high payload of 1,600 to 1,800 kilograms, and the L39 was in production from 1956 to 1968. This beast was produced more than 120,000 times. This thing looks so fun to drive. I can only imagine what it was like whipping around the hills of Bavaria in this thing, carrying all sorts of people in the back. In 1967, the L406D model would eventually be replacing the L319. The 406 had a larger payload and would carry almost double the capacity of what the 319 could. In 1968, the 2.2-liter OM615 pre-chambered diesel engine replaced the OM621 2-liter engine that was in its predecessor, the 319. This van used variability to the max. The 406 could pretty much transform into anything. The Dusseldorf transformer provided to fields such as construction, medical, and even the postal services at the time. The 406 came in 3 different weight categories, and this beast also had 6 different chassis that came with or without cabs. Another thing that the 406 is known for is its button-like nose. A lot of people can spot it a mile away. You can tell, oh, that's a 406. Others may refer to this van as the L408, which they're not wrong. It's just that the L408 version held a larger capacity. This is for sure one of my favorite vans, and if I had a genie to go back in time, I would definitely crank one of these bad boys around. The T1 Transporter is one of the most popular Mercedes vans to date. In 1977, the T1 came into production in order to replace the 406 variant. The T1 was essentially produced in Bremen until 1984. That's where the nickname, the Bremer, comes from. Production then moved to Dusseldorf until 1995. The T1 had an 18-year-long production. The Bremer is known for its sleek look, capability, and simplicity. This van has definitely stood the test of time, and even today you can still see these on the road. This is a true testament to the van's reliability and functionality. In 1995, the Sprinter van was introduced to the world by Mercedes. This was the first time in Mercedes history that a van had a name, other than a series of numbers and letters associated with it. The first generation Sprinter included rear-wheel drive, independent front-wheel suspension, and a comfy, spacious cab. Nearly a decade later, the second generation of the Sprinter van was created. Introduced in 2006, the second gen offered an assortment of options. The new Sprinter offered 2 ceiling heights, 2 weight classes, and 3 lengths. And in 2015, 4-wheel drive was introduced with the second generation Sprinter. The third generation was revealed February of 2018. It is the first generation to offer a front-wheel capability. In 2023, the Sprinter officially retired the 4x4 capability in the United States and now offers the 2-liter 4-cylinder all-wheel drive in its place. Since 2005, the Sprinter van has roughly produced over 453,000 vans in the US alone. Throughout the years, the Sprinter has provided a lifeline for cargo and freight, and even passengers. The Sprinter has even influenced the medical and law enforcement arenas by providing the vessel for saving many lives. The Sprinter has been put to the test around the world and has flourished due to its versatility and dependability. The future looks very promising for the Sprinter as it continues to keep pace with the world in which we live in. It is truly inspiring to know and understand how the automobile of today derived from a 3-wheeled carriage. That's the beauty about ideas. Sometimes they take us further than we can imagine. There's no denying that Carl and Bertha's story was a rigorous one. There was mountains of adversity along the way. They started out from blueprints, to schematics, to models, to patents, and then the real deal. Without their tenacity, without their drive, without their teamwork, the goal of creating that first automobile wouldn't have been complete. I draw inspiration from Bertha and Carl's story, and I hope that you do as well. Danke für eure Unterstützung, Carl und Bertha. Alles Gute, Mercedes-Benz. Ein Prost. This leads into the Sprinter van that I purchased in the fall of 2021. The van that I desired the most for my conversion was the V6 144 diesel. Due to the help of friends and family, I was able to complete my goal. Feel free to join in on the complete conversion from an empty cargo van to my humble home. For episode 2, I'll primarily cover all of the exterior components of the van and go through the list of what I chose to use for my wheels, bumper, windows, and more. Please stay tuned.
Before we move along, I would just like to personally introduce you to a good buddy of mine. His name is KCom. He's an upcoming hip-hop artist, and he'll be featured on many of my videos. Let's roll it.
KCom is an upcoming artist in the hip-hop arena. He's not only a good friend of mine, but he's a great talent. Please support him by sharing his music, showing him some love on YouTube, Spotify, and Amazon. You'll hear his music throughout my videos, as it will provide the momentum and smooth style. This boy definitely got the juice, and I'm looking forward to seeing him explode. Keep killing it, K.
Next is a plugin for the Garret Torney Foundation, charity founded in 2017. Without further ado,
the Garret Torney Foundation is a charity that was founded in 2017 and was set up to help veterans that battle PTSD. It was established in the honor of a United States Marine named Garret Torney. Garret bravely served in both Iraq and Afghanistan, and unfortunately Garret is no longer with us today. Garret's mother, Katie Torney, and his friends founded the charity in order to provide service dogs for vets, and also to provide services of any kind for those who serve. Thank you folks for staying tuned for the Garret Torney Foundation. We appreciate the support. Garret was an outstanding human being, and it would be great to honor him by giving back to others. That's something that Garret did, and we can honor him by doing that. The goal is to raise $5,000 for the Garret Torney Foundation charity by November 8th, which is Garret's birthday of 2024. So $5,000 by November 8th. We'll be tracking it, and we'll be keeping the progress up with that. So if you guys can, stay tuned. Help us reach our goal of $5,000. Support our troops. Thank you. If you made it this far, thank you very much. I just wanted to holler at you guys real quick before I go. Hey, listen, man. There may be some of you that are at a crossroads in your life. Maybe you lost your job, or you're on the cusp of losing your job, or you're in a toxic relationship, or you just lost a loved one. Hang in there. I know right now, times are tough, but that doesn't mean that it's the end. Adversity is part of the human experience. And often people say, oh, don't let anybody tell you, that you can't do anything. Well, people are going to tell you that you can't, and no. The bottom line is, what are you going to do about it? Are you going to cave in? Or are you going to just find other options, come up with a better game plan, seek self-improvement? Just believe in yourselves, and you can do it. If you're on the edge, and you don't know what could happen, and you're at a crossroads, push. Continue on. Fight. If you need help, hit me up. I'd be glad to discuss it with you and encourage you on. When I'm feeling down or I need some motivation or pick-me-up, I usually refer back to a speech that was given by the 26th President of the United States, Theodore Roosevelt. It was called Citizenship in a Republic, and it's referred to as the man in the arena. When I think back on this speech, it really drives me, and I'm just like, oh man, I can do anything as long as I'm willing to do the work. I figured I would share that with you today, just in case someone out there needs a little motivation. This speech was given in France in front of thousands of people, and it reads, "It is not the critic who counts.
Not the man who points out how the strong man stumbles, or where the doer of deeds could have done them better. The credit belongs to the man who is actually in the arena, whose face is marred by dust and sweat and blood, who strives valiantly, who errs, who comes short again and again, because there is no effort without error and shortcoming, but who does actually strive to do the deeds, who knows great enthusiasms, the great devotions, who spends himself in the worthy cause,
who at the best knows in the end the triumph of high achievement, and who at the worst, if he fails, at least he fails while daring greatly.
so that his place shall never be with those cold and timid souls who neither know victory nor defeat. Shame on the man of cultivated taste, who lets refinement to develop into fastidiousness that unfits him for doing the rough work of a workday world.
Thank you all for taking the time out of your day to watch the video. It means a lot, and I'm just getting the channel started, so hopefully you guys will be along with me for the ride. If not, hey, it's okay. Hopefully you learned something, and we'll catch you next time. I personally like to thank my family and the people in my circle. Without you, I wouldn't be here today, and your love and support has literally gotten me where I am now. So thank you guys. You guys know who I'm talking about. My parents, my friends, thank you. There's more that can be said, but I just want to genuinely say thank you. And for those who haven't really reached out to your family, or it's been a while because you're caught up on the grind, pick up the phone, shoot a text. It takes like 2 seconds. Thank you goes a long way. Hey, I'm thinking about you goes a long way. Life's too short, you just never know. Well, till next time, I'm Solo V. La la lay. KCom. Hit 'em.
I got the juice and I got the G's. I got the people, they begging for me. I step on the scene, I be so elite. Be on that move and I stay with that heat. We in the streets, yeah. I got that heat, yeah. I got the juice and I got the G's. I got the people, they begging for me. I step on the scene, I be so elite.